Welcome back to the Conservative Cat Show, where the claws have come out and we are going to be sinking our claws into the truth today. Okay, so big government is going to get scratched today, and you're going to hear some headlines from the heartland, Illinois, right here. We're fighting for family, we're fighting for faith, we're fighting for freedom. Today's episode, we're going to be getting into Governor J.B. Pritzker, of course. He wants to sell you a green miracle, and he's using your money to do it. He's trying to sell you this green weenie nonsense, and he's using your money, your tax dollars, to entice a company to come here. And he did it successfully. Pure Lithium. We're going to dig into that, but you won't want to miss today's headlines because you won't believe what Pritzker just did to your phone bill, by the way. And I didn't notice this. I have a phone bill, so it went up like, I paid a lot for my phone bill, so don't judge me. I gotta try to get it down, but it's like $68 a month. It used to be $68 a month. Now I'm paying $73, and I was confused. I was like, man, that kind of went up quite a bit, and I'm like, I'm curious. It's because of the taxes. So I'm gonna get to how much you're paying in taxes if you're an Illinoisan on your phone bill here this morning. It's important. So we're also going to be talking about Governor Gavin Newsom. He's dancing around this question, literally. I don't know why he does these really like weird moves, Gavin Newsom, when he talks. It's bizarre. But he dances around this question as to whether or not he believes that 8-year-olds should be getting sex changes. And, you know, he dances around this despite California law supporting sex changes for 8-year-olds. So we know your actions speak louder than your words, Governor. So yeah, we're going to get into all of that. Plus, you won't want to miss today's show because we are going to be talking about birthright citizenship. I've done this a few times where I've talked about the 14th Amendment and how birthright citizenship is actually unconstitutional. If you were to read the supplement documents to the constitutional amendment, the 14th Amendment, I'll provide you some history. Where do we go from here? Should birthright citizenship be outlawed or barred via executive order like Donald Trump wants or has done? Should we do that, or should Congress pass a law clarifying what the 14th Amendment actually says? I think it's pretty freaking clear when you look at the supplement documents. Actually, there was a guy, a historical figure of Illinois. He had played a big role in defining the subject to the jurisdiction thereof clause in the 14th Amendment. So I don't want to give too much away. We're going to talk about that in the 7 o'clock hour. Right now, I do want to talk about Governor J.B. Pritzker spending $4.4 million just for 50 jobs. Okay, 50 jobs to go to Chicago. And I think that Illinois is getting scammed by green energy. What do you think? Throw it in the comments section. As always, subscribe to the channel and support the channel by buying your bottle of Patriot Pump today. Buy it for a friend. Buy it for somebody who loves to work out. Buy it for somebody who just needs more clean energy. Clean energy. We're going to be talking about clean energy today. It's not actually all that clean, but clean energy. And what I mean by that is not all of these fillers and these energy drinks. You know, C4 is really bad for you. There's all kinds of artificial dyes and colorings, and we don't do that. Patriot Pump Energy does not do that. So go to patriotpumpenergy.com and buy your bottle of Patriot Pump today. Let's get into it. Pure Lithium, this is a corporation. So here's the headline. Pure Lithium, formerly of Boston, is relocating to Chicago's Fulton Market. Why? Because Governor J.B. Pritzker rolled out the taxpayer-funded welcome mat for these people. And Crane's calculation, Crane Chicago Business, they came up with the $4.4 million in tax incentives. Okay, so it's not really transparent. The government's never really transparent when it comes to these reimagining electric vehicle or energy and vehicles in Illinois Act. Through that, they get what's called a REV tax credit. And they're very, like, it's not very transparent because they don't tell you exactly how much these companies are getting most of the time. Cranes came up with that calculation, the 4.4 million. So the company has promised to invest $46 million and create 50 jobs. I know what you're thinking. Kat, 50 jobs, 50? Did you just say 50? Not 5,000, not 500? Yes. we just spent $4.4 million for 50 jobs to come here to the state of Illinois. You'd think Pritzker was announcing, like a huge major company, Google, is decided to headquarter itself right there in the heart of Chicago, and they're going to create thousands of jobs. You'd think that Pritzker announced that, based on the fanfare, based on the press releases that have come out about this thing, Pure Lithium. These are 50 jobs. And I'll get to it because we don't even know if those 50 jobs are going to be new jobs, if they're going to hire local people. They could be jobs that are just transferred over from Boston to Chicago. They, of course, could possibly be filled by foreign labor or somebody from Wisconsin. And a lot of this REV tax credit, the more I look into it, the more I'm like, are they actually fulfilling their duties and their guidelines? Which is a whole nother thing. I don't like the Missouri, a neighboring state. They don't do this kind of stuff where they give tax credits to companies and entice them to come here and pretty much bribe them to come here or go to their state. I don't like that because here's the thing. In exchange, think about all the industries that you can't stand. Your phone companies, okay, your cell phone companies, your hospitals, your airplanes, car dealerships. A lot of those industries are highly, highly subsidized. And the more subsidies, the less the free market actually gets to work and breathe, and the less there's actually capitalism going on. And when you place like mandates, so in exchange for the $4.4 million in tax credits, what they have to do is 50 jobs, right? Or Rivian, it was like 6,000 jobs in exchange for millions in tax credits. So they're going to be so focused on hiring, right? And trying to meet those thresholds. Otherwise, they're going to lose out on millions. So they're going to be focused on HR. They're going to be trying to fill these jobs and not necessarily fill them with good people. If they're trying to meet a hiring quota in order to obtain a tax credit, they're going to probably fill that with a warm body if they can. Okay. So they're not prioritizing their product. When you have picking winners and losers and giving tax credits on a guideline type basis, or on a, like, if you do this, then we give you this. If the government gets into that business, you have industries that are no longer focused on providing a good product and beating their competition. You have industries that are focused on meeting government's requirements in order to get government money. So let's break this down. The $4.4 million for 50 jobs. This calculation, it comes to $88,000 per job. That's what we're paying for. You're paying for somebody to get an 88, that's what they're estimating these jobs at. Apparently the government, they think these 50 jobs are worth $88,000 per job. Now, Mark Glennon of WirePoints, he's a watchdog, and he did the math on this. I mean, the industry average here for, what we're talking about, Pure Lithium, and what they make are lithium batteries, and we'll get to that here in just a second. But the industry average for jobs are $50,000 at most. So we're overpaying for those jobs to come here, essentially, to Illinois. So the benefits for Illinoisans, very thin. Very, very thin. I wouldn't say that this company is benefiting Illinois at all. So there's no guarantee that these jobs are going to be going to Illinoisans. Like I said, there's no guarantee that these are even new jobs. For all we know, Pure Lithium is going to be packing up, some of their laptops from Boston, and they're going to be slapping a made in Illinois sticker on them and calling it a day, right? And they're just going to be packing up their stuff and transferring over here. So they did their research and development. And I want to be careful because I don't think that it's a startup necessarily, a lithium battery startup, but it's definitely in the infancy stages because they haven't really made a commercial battery yet. So it's kind of like a gamble. And I hate that. This is a new technology. And we're like gambling with taxpayer dollars. We're like betting on this company that it's going to work. And all up to this point, I don't think that they've sold a single product. They've done research and development in Boston, and now they're moving to Chicago. So, folks, this isn't economic development, it's corporate welfare. Governor J.B. Pritzker is paying companies to come here, and they're slapping a green label on these companies. And by the way, lithium is not clean energy. Have you ever looked at a lithium? That's so interesting. Just use your common sense. Have you ever driven by oil rigs, like out in the fields? The cows are all around the oil rigs. It's a very small big rig. It just goes into the ground and pumps out the oil. We drill out the oil, and then you look at a lithium battery mine, and it like is a huge crater in our earth, and it's just like nothing grows there because you're mining, obviously, and nothing can live there. So yeah, the lithium stuff is not clean. So it really bothers me when people are like, oh yeah, clean energy. Yeah, the electric vehicle is not clean. To be like, don't even get me started on that rabbit hole because they're not clean. So let's put this into perspective. The Pritzker administration has been peddling green energy like it's in a magic elixir, Lion Electric. They peddled this, but guess what? Lion Electric, it was an electric bus company. I think it was in Joliet, somewhere around there, which is slightly north of Bloomington Normal, Illinois, which is like an hour and a half north, about that. And they shut down before they could even collect the subsidies, which is so funny. I think it's a racket, honestly. I mean, the Lion Electric bus company didn't even get up off the ground to a point where they couldn't even collect their subsidies. Okay, so Rivian, they're also struggling. I don't know how much longer they're going to make it. Stellantis, it was very hyped up, the Belvedere plant. Thank you, President Donald Trump, for opening up that plant, adding 2,000 jobs. And it was really because he was talking with the Stellantis CEO for 2 days. They had met for a couple of days. And subsequently, right after their meeting, Stellantis opened up. I love how the Democrats said, oh, no, this was the work of the unions, though, and they fought so hard for years. Yeah, interesting. The Stellantis plant shut down under Joe Biden and opened back up under President Donald Trump, but whatever. So they had a much hyped EV project in Belvedere, Stellantis. That completely collapsed, fell through. And Goshen is another one of these companies who have gotten, insane tax credits. And this is a highly controversial company because it's linked to the Chinese Communist Party. And they are now pivoting, as I told you yesterday, from electric vehicle batteries to batteries for data centers, which poses a national security risk, which is a totally different topic. Go check out the archives on YouTube. Yesterday's show, I dug into how, these batteries at these data centers. This is data centers at hospitals, government centers, or they're going to have access potentially if they, put spyware or malware in the batteries, and they sell these batteries to data centers. I mean, the Chinese Communist Party, are they going to have access to our very precious data, our water treatment plants? I mean, this is really kind of creepy stuff. But anyway, so they transitioned from the EV batteries to the data center batteries. Why? Probably because there isn't a market out there. There's not a market buying electric vehicles. They're not buying what they're selling. Okay, so they had to transition to the data center batteries, and probably Goshen wants, they're linked to the Chinese Communist Party. I would not doubt that there's some spying going on, or potential. I mean, they chose a location right next to a major rail line in Manteno, Illinois. Anyway, so here's what they don't want you to know. Okay, so come in. You've got the secret. Come close. All this talk about clean energy, that's exactly what it is. It's just talk. These aren't real sustainable jobs. They are government-funded PR campaigns. It's all just talk, because just look at Lion Electric. It's going to go down. Rivian, they're struggling, okay? Probably because there's not a demand. So this is what happens when you pick winners and losers, and your picker's off. So Governor J.B. Pritzker's picker is off. Now, there are governors who do this well. I would say that Ron DeSantis does it in his state of Florida. Like I said, Missouri does it right, and they don't do this at all. And they don't, they just have low taxes. And hey, we'll let you guys do everything you want. These companies, we'll let you do whatever you want, and we'll keep your taxes low. Just, keep creating jobs for the state. So these are government-funded PR campaigns, and you're the person who's paying for the photo ops. That's what's really so frustrating about all of this. So let's talk about the REV Illinois Act. REV, Reimagine Electric Vehicles or Energy and Vehicles Act. So this is basically Pritzker's magic wand, right? Expelliarmus, Harry Potter. It's his little magic wand, and he waves it around, and he throws around some taxpayer cash and announces another win. Okay, so this is his little magic wand. He throws around taxpayer cash, and there's this big win. He'll say, "Oh, it's a big win. We gave money to Damara." This is one of those, another company, Wieland North America, now Pure Lithium, Rivian. You get a press release, okay? That's basically what Governor J.B. Pritzker is doing here, because this isn't actually helping Illinois at all, because a lot of these companies are either startups, they're not proven companies, and he's gambling with your money. He's playing Shark Tank with your money. He's like Kevin O'Learying it. So the Commerce Director, the Illinois Department of Economic, she's a director for the Commerce Department. I think Kristen Richards is her name. She claims in a Center Square article that Illinois is a clean energy leader thanks to, quote, world-class infrastructure and top-tier workforce. Well, Kristen, if we're so competitive, okay, and everybody the way they make this sound is so funny. Like, you wouldn't have to pay companies or bribe companies to move to Illinois if we were, in fact, the clean energy leader, and we had world-class infrastructure, and we had a top-tier workforce, okay? You wouldn't have to bribe these companies to come here. They should be lining up at our border if they wanted to come here, if that's the case. And I find it so funny that they don't just call this what it is. It's a bribe. It's a gamble. You're gambling on a startup. They won't tell you what this is. It's Governor J.B. Pritzker playing around. Like, that's literally what it is. And it just bothers me. Like, you wouldn't have to bribe these companies to come here with $4.4 million Pure Lithium if Illinois was worth a damn. Okay, if they actually were, if we actually had low taxes, and if this was a business friendly state, you wouldn't have to bribe them. So this isn't leadership, it's desperation. A state with effectively the highest tax burden in the country, in the Midwest, definitely shouldn't be handing out corporate candy. That's what I call these tax credits, is corporate candy, while families can't afford groceries. And you're taxing working families to give these corporations candy, essentially. And it's not fair. It's not fair. So let's zoom out. And the press isn't going to ask the tough question, which is who actually is getting these jobs. Mark Lennon, Wire Points, hits the nail on the head. He says, quote, Pure Lithium might not even hire local. If you look at Rivian, if you look at Goshen, if these are stories that should send light bulbs off in your head, you can look at them. They hire H-1B people. Rivian do a H-1B visa hires. Foreign nationals are brought in to take, jobs that are subsidized by your tax dollars most of the time. And, they might be coming in from other states, not even potentially foreign labor or like H-1B visas, potentially just other states. Or these aren't new jobs. They might just be transferring jobs from, say, Georgia, which I think Rivian has a plant there. They'll transfer a job up to Illinois, and they'll say that's a new job that they brought to Illinois. Well, that job kind of already existed. You're just transferring it up. So where's the accountability? That's one thing that I've noticed as somebody who is sucked into the news, politics here in the state of Illinois. I've noticed that there is little accountability when it comes to the REV tax credit program. I haven't seen a whole lot of audits, legislative oversight. Hey, are they actually meeting these requirements in order to receive the tax credit? There's benchmarks, but these benchmarks can easily be fudged, right? Like I said, the $6,000 or the 6,000 jobs, I think Rivian, it was that minimum requirement. They had to create that many jobs. This company, Pure Lithium, I think the requirement is 50 jobs, and they've got to invest 46 million. Like, are we actually holding these companies accountable, or are we just doing glossy headlines and back patting pressers there, JB? Because that's what it looks like to me. It just looks like back patting press releases and pressers, and we brought companies here to the state of Illinois. They want to come here. If they wanted to come here, then why'd you have to pay them? Okay, so we said it before. I'll say it again. Pritzker's green economy. This isn't about green energy. It's about green dollars flowing into the hands of well-connected corporations. And this is the same state who is billions of dollars in pension debt. Okay, let's not forget we're billions of dollars in pension debt. We shouldn't be giving any companies money until we fix our debt situation. The same state, this is the same state, remember, who shut down churches. They didn't shut down the bars or strip clubs during COVID. And yet we've got $4.4 million thrown at this lithium battery. Essentially, I'm going to call it a startup. It looks like a startup to me. They haven't really sold the product. Up to this point, it looks like they've done research and development. So why are we doing this? $4.4 million. We're in pension debt. Working families can barely afford groceries here in the state of Illinois. Why? Because it looks good on a campaign flyer that J.B. Pritzker brought innovation to Illinois. Meanwhile, you've got middle-class families crushed under property taxes, small businesses that are drowning in red tape, small landlords who are drowning in red tape, farmers who can't get a fair shake thanks to green regulations that the state of Illinois places on them. And I want to bring this to a Christian perspective, a biblical perspective. I like to do this in the show. The last segment, typically, I bring this home biblically because this is the basic instructions before leaving Earth, the Bible. And the Bible talks a lot about politics. Like, how people say, don't talk about politics and religion at the dinner table. Actually, talk about politics and religion at the dinner table and talk about how the Bible addresses all of these issues. As Christians, we're called to be stewards of the land, of our resources, and yes, of our government. And this isn't stewardship. Okay, this is theft disguised as virtue. We're not against innovation as Christians. I want to make that clear. I'm not against energy advancement. I really think electric vehicles are cool. Have you ever been in a Tesla? It's pretty neat. I'm not against innovation, but I am against cronyism and welfare and not managing your money properly. If you had a bunch of credit card debt, would you be giving your friends money? No. So this is what Illinois is doing. They've got billions, 140, and it's continues to climb $1 billion. It's probably way higher than that now. We've got that pension debt sitting there, and we're giving money out to our friends, these corporations, for their startups. And these aren't even proven companies. Okay, so they were against cronyism. We're against waste as Christians. We're against leaders who exploit good intentions. So I think that electric vehicle innovation, there is a good intention there, making cars more efficient. I mean, it's kind of annoying that you have to go and pump the gas. Think about it. I'm all about convenience and innovation. It'd be so cool if we could just charge our cars at night, right? Like our cell phones. We're just not there yet. And they are exploiting these very good intentions of electric vehicles. Now, we're not there yet because they're using slave labor to mine these lithium fields. And I'm against electric vehicles in its current form because of the slave labor that's used, because it's not done in a way that is beneficial to the environment. Look at one of these lithium mines. Look at some of these cobalt mines. They're dangerous to go in and to mine it. We haven't figured it out yet. So I am against them as of right now. Hopefully we can innovate and figure out a way to mine this a little bit more safely, not use children to do it. And I'm hoping it might be too late for America to take the lead on electric vehicle innovation. But there's other places. I think that the big, beautiful bill, what Donald Trump is doing there, he wants us to lead on artificial intelligence. And it does a lot to make us the leaders in that industry. The big, beautiful bill, which I'll get to the big, beautiful bill here a little bit later, because it turns out it's an 80-20 issue. A lot of people like what's in the big, beautiful bill. You wouldn't know that by listening to the mainstream media. There was a poll that came out, and a majority of people actually like what's in the big, beautiful bill. But Pritzker, if he truly cared about Illinois families, he'd cut taxes. He'd not redistribute our money to these green startups. Okay, you don't give your money like to your friend who has a business startup. So for example, you have a ton of credit card debt. Would you give your money to your friend Joe if he's starting a coffee shop, a brand new, startup? Would you give money like a business loan to this guy if you had debt of your own? Absolutely not. So why the hell are we doing it at a state level? So what's the plan? I like to give you the biblical side of things. We are called to be good stewards of our resources and of our land, and yes, of our government. And this isn't stewardship. It's really just theft disguised as virtue. I do want to give you a where do we go from here, a solution, and corporate subsidies. I really think that we should take the Missouri model. Now, there are states who do it well. Ron DeSantis does it very well. But I'm more in the business of free market. Let the free market pick winners and losers, not the governor. Okay, with a re-election agenda. Audit every Reimagine Electric or Energy Vehicles Act deal. So there's a lot of taxes that are given through this act, the REV Act, and we need full transparency on what jobs are they creating, what dollars are being spent on these corporations, what are the long-term outcomes, was it worth it? We need audits, full transparency on the money that we're giving to these companies. If we're going to keep this model, I would love to just see it go away and end corporate subsidies entirely. There's states that do that. Now, I do want to empower local businesses, and the way you do that is by cutting regulation. So the small landlord, okay, who was forced to take Venmo or Zelle, and he doesn't want to process those types of payments that way, or take a check, they're forced to take a check. And he would much rather have his payments processed in one portal and charge a modest, transaction fee. We should be cutting regulations for those landlords. We should be cutting regulations for local businesses and small businesses. And we should be slashing property taxes and supporting apprenticeships in the trades. I would rather see taxpayer dollars go towards things like the trades. I really would, rather than these big corporation startups. It would make more sense. Everybody needs a freaking plumber. Okay. Not everybody is going to go out and buy an electric vehicle and, or purchase lithium battery. Like, I think that you need to focus on everyday people. And that's what Governor J.B. Pritzker says he's all about. He says he's about working families. So why is he not for working families? So we need to protect Illinois land and labor. No taxpayer funded handouts to foreign companies, period. So Goshen, they should not be getting tax credits. No foreign company should be getting tax credits or taxpayer dollars. I do want to talk about how we have to restore our constitutional biblical values to government, because if these leaders had constitutional biblical values, they would understand that the free market is the way to go, and picking winners and losers is not the business of the government. And the truth matters more than optics. I want to be very clear about that. So this policy does not reflect stewardship, and really it's just manipulation. This policy of giving corporation startups who do green energy, which isn't all that green. Lithium mines are not green. Go take a look at them. There's little children who are in these mines and dying in these mines, trying to mine these electric vehicle car batteries. And it's sad. So we need policy that reflects stewardship and not manipulates the public into thinking that this is a good thing. So Governor J.B. Pritzker, he's powering green revolution, but here on the Conservative Cat Show, we're not fooled by buzzwords. You're not fooled by buzzwords. Watch your money, follow the math, and above all, keep your claws sharp. I do want to talk about something else that is very important if you are a Illinoisan. If you're a resident in Illinois, this is something that's very important and something that I didn't even really think of until I sat down and started doing show prep today. And I was like, damn, my phone bill did go up. And I'm like, wait a second. And I did the math really quick. And I'm like, it's directly because of this taxation that they just, because of the budget. So this affects you directly. So today's segment here, I want to call it Dialing Up Tyranny, how Governor J.B. Pritzker turned your cell phone bill into a tax grab. So that is this segment. So I hope you enjoy it, folks. And I think that this one is really going to get you fired up, because if you haven't looked at your phone bill, I highly recommend you do that today and see how much it went up and do the calculation yourself, because then you're really going to start to see how the overtaxation affects your day-to-day life. So my bill went up from $68 to $73. And I was like, whoa, that's pretty high. And I was like, that's kind of confusing. I was like, I've had the same phone like practically my whole life. I'm not into like the brand new iPhones or anything like that. I'm one of those Android users. I'm a weirdo. And I've had this Android like literally like for 5, 6, 7 years. So I don't know. So it's like one of the really old ones. I'm just not into the fancy gadgets. So I was like, why did my phone bill go up? I was like, I've had this phone for years. It's not like I got new products or anything, Apple Watches. I don't wear all that stuff. So I did the math and I'm like, oh, it's directly because of this tax grab. So if you thought your phone bill was expensive before, and my phone bill is very expensive, $68, pretty damn expensive to me. Okay, that's $68 a month. If you thought it was high before, what Illinois has cooked up for you and your family is ridiculousness. So pour yourself a cup of strong coffee this morning, or steep some of your tea. If you're doing some tea this morning, steep your tea, because we are going to look into the latest money grab by big government taxaholics. They are taxaholics. What do you think? All right, let's get into it. 38% is the combined cell phone tax rate. Okay, combined cell phone tax rate. As of July 1st, the people of Illinois are now paying a combined cell phone tax rate of 38%. That is not a mistake. That is the actual number, 38%. You can go look at the Center Square article. They have the numbers all laid out for you there. It's not satire. It's not a Babylon Bee article. 38% is the combined cell phone tax rate. So Governor J.B. Pritzker, he is continuously gone out there and said, I won't raise taxes on working families. And he has delivered this promise over and over and over and over again. But July 1st, Illinois has the highest local wireless tax in the country. Okay, at 7%. Before July 1st, they already had the highest local wireless tax in the country at 7%. But apparently that wasn't enough. Governor J.B. Pritzker's new budget, the largest in Illinois history, $55.2 billion, included a hike to 8.65. So it used to be 7%. Now it's 8.65%, raising the combined cell phone tax burden to 37.7%. So it's about 38%. So the total cell phone tax burden for an Illinoisan, so that's your state, local, and federal taxes on your cell phone bill, that is 37.7%. And when you tally this all up, so say you have a $100 phone bill. Okay, you're going to be paying $38 in taxes. $38 in taxes. So Dylan Sharkey of the Illinois Policy is quoted in the center square. He says, quote, "You add up the state and federal taxes, Illinoisans are paying close to 38% on their phone bills. That's number one in the nation. We're not number one. I want to make this clear. We're not number one in education outcomes. We're not number one in road conditions. But taxes, you bet, we're number one in taxes." So for comparison, let's look at other states, if you will, please join me. Wisconsin, combined cell phone tax rate is 21%. We're at 38%, like I said. Iowa is 23%. Indiana and Kentucky is 24%. Even Missouri, another typically tax-heavy state when it comes to like things like sales taxes and like consumer taxes. I would say Missouri is a little bit higher than maybe like in Indiana or Kentucky. It's at 28%. That's it. So Illinois is at 38%. We're getting are we getting 38% better service here in the state of Illinois? Is it 38% safer, our data, our cell phone towers? Are they working 38% more efficiently than other cell phone towers in the nation? Is our infrastructure, our cell phone towers, 38% stronger? No, friends. It's just that we're 38% more oppressed. So we're paying extra for no perks. Okay, like we're literally just paying extra because Governor J.B. Pritzker doesn't know how to manage budget. So let's talk about how this actually affects you. Your family paying $100 for a phone, okay, plan, a phone plan. Sharkey and the Illinois Policy Institute will say that you're paying close to $38 every single month in taxes of that $100. That's $456 a year. Okay, what can you do with $456 a year? Think about what you could do with that money and just chew on that a little bit for me. Just to own and use a phone. Like that is what you're paying a year, close to $500 a year. That is what you're using, or you're paying to just talk to your grandkids on FaceTime. Okay, so let me ask you something. Does this tax sound like a tax on the rich? Is it a luxury tax? No, this is a regressive tax. This is a tax that hits families very, very hard, particularly low-income families, particularly people in low-income communities. They are the hardest hit. This hits young people very hard, students, retirees. Now, remember, the U.S. average for cell phone taxes, so nation's average is $320. You're paying $456. So Illinois families are paying $136 more than the national average, okay, on your cell phone taxes. So what can you do with $136? Well, that's groceries for the week, okay? Well, maybe like some groceries for the week. I mean, like what? Why? Why are we so different from everybody else in the nation? I gave you Wisconsin, Kentucky, Indiana, Missouri. We're significantly higher, paying a higher tax in cell phone taxes because Governor J.B. Pritzker and the progressive supermajority think that you work for them, not the other way around. This is the crux of the issue, is they want to fund their pet projects, NASCAR for $5 million, Chris Welch's sport complex for $40 million. The list goes on. Millions of dollars to illegal immigrant nonprofit organizations, so that way they can provide illegal immigrants legal aid. All of that. They're paying for that stuff, so they need more money to pay for that stuff, and they are convinced that you work for them, and it's not the other way around, and you have to give up all of your cash for them to fund these pet projects and things that just nobody would ever need, like a NASCAR race in Chicago. Nobody needs that. Okay, so let's rewind the tape for a moment. Governor J.B. Pritzker promised that he wouldn't sign broad-based tax increases on working families. This is a quote of his multiple times. He says, I'm not going to sign tax increases on working families. And he's got this big bus, by the way, Governor J.B. Pritzker, that I'm sure it's going to make another appearance because he's on the campaign trail. And it just says working families right across the bus. And I want to ask him, what is this? What do you call this? The cell phone tax? Because I'd love to meet a working family that doesn't use a cell phone on a daily basis. Maybe Governor J.B. Pritzker thinks that we're all writing letters to each other by candlelight. Maybe he thinks that we're like little plebs and we don't use cell phones. Maybe he thinks that we're like writing letters on a day-to-day basis. I don't know. He's very far removed from the working class family. So it wouldn't shock me to find out that he goes, oh, they use cell phones? They're able to do that? Oh, I'm shocked that their little pea-sized brains are able to use cell phones. I thought that they would be writing letters. So this phone tax is just the tip of, the fiscal iceberg, because we've got number one in property taxes. We're, I think, number two in gas taxes. I think we're behind California. And we're number two in corporate income taxes as far as the nation goes. And so much for, being open for business, right? Illinois, open for business. Oh, but you got to pay like the highest property taxes in the nation. Oh, and you got to pay incredible gas taxes and cell phone taxes and corporate income taxes as well. So this is a reoccurring theme in Illinois. And if you're an Illinoisan, you get this. Maybe you're not an Illinoisan and you're just joining. Don't move here. Okay. But it's the same theme over and over and over again. Record spending, record taxes, record incompetence. And you, the taxpayer, you're footing the bill while Springfield is patting itself on the back. And, they come out with these press releases like about their latest equity initiative or their latest climate initiative. And it's just nonsense. It's a clown show. So if you thought that was bad, imagine living in Chicago, because this is where it really gets interesting, thanks to a loophole in the state law. There's a carve out here where Chicago can slap an extra $5 in tax per phone line. So that's per device, not per household. So if you have a work phone, if you have a phone for your kid, if you have a smartphone that has cellular, or a smartwatch that has cellular, you are going to be paying like $15 to $20 a month extra in taxes, in city cell taxes, if you're in Chicago specifically. So the state has let this happen and has let this go on. Pritzker's team doesn't rein that in, okay? The $5 additional tax on every phone line, by the way. Pritzker's team doesn't rein that in. He enables it. They call it local control. That's why they've never addressed Chicago and this loophole that they have where they can charge this $5 tax per line. They call that, it's local control. We have to let them, control things locally there. Well, you want to know what I'd call it? I'd call it tax tyranny. Okay, so Chicago's cell phone tax is regressive, it's anti-poor, and it's just wildly unjust. $5 per line? Are you freaking kidding me? The bureaucrats, they just don't care. And you want to know why the bureaucrats don't care about this kind of stuff? And, I might be really outraged by this because I looked at my phone bill, $68 to $73. And you're like, Kat, come on. Why are you outraged about this? Is it really that big a deal? It is, because these people are going to continue to do it because they don't have to pay their own cell phone bills, because they've got their perks, they've got their pensions, they've got $150 something per diem when they're in legislative session. So that is $150 per day to go spend on alcohol, I'm sure, and food at all these restaurants in Springfield. And they get automatic raises. I think they just got, the legislators, a $7,000 raise. And their phones, I'm sure they're state issued, or they have a state issued phone. And I know they have like state issued tablets. I don't know if they have cellular on them, but I know they have those. But you pay their bills. Okay. You're paying the legislators' bills, the bureaucrats' bills. And I'm sure some of these the Illinois Department of Economic Opportunity, Commerce and Economic Opportunity, that is the first. If I was a governor of Illinois, the first agency that would be that one. I think that they are detrimental to the economic health of Illinois. They are destroying the state, that state agency. The other one that would be totally reimagined would be DCFS and the Illinois Department of Human Services. because they just give out all kinds of grants to illegal immigrants, nonprofit organizations that provide legal aid for criminals. So, yeah, last I checked, you're not supposed to pay for the defense attorneys, right? And like you're prosecuting, and you're not really supposed to be paying for the defense as well as prosecuting a case. That's typically how those things go. Anyway, so what can we do? And I like to give you these solutions. And I know you probably think I'm being outrageous about this, but what really makes me mad is that these people don't have to live the same life you live because they get it all paid for by you. And what you can do is call up your state rep, call up your senator, and ask them why they let people of Illinois pay more to call grandma or to FaceTime your grandbaby than the folks in Indiana or Kentucky do. Why does Illinois pay more? Get them on the phone and question them and get them very, very uncomfortable. Anybody who voted for this budget voted for that. So Sharon Chung, Dave Gaylor, whoever your state rep is who voted for this budget, likely if they're a Democrat, they voted for it. Call them up, ask them. So why do you think it's okay for me in Illinois to pay more to call my grandma than it is for somebody in Indiana? You think it's okay for me to do it and not somebody in Indiana? Push back on the budget. Pritzker's $55.2 billion spending spree is unsustainable. It's immoral and it's unconstitutional. And the way they passed it, by the way, is unconstitutional. It prioritizes political games and pet projects versus working families. It does not prioritize working families. We need to demand local reform, especially in Chicago, where the per line tax is still a thing. You could probably get a referendum going there if you're in Chicago. Voters should demand repeals or caps on that. You could probably get a referendum together and try to repeal that. So you need to vote for change. If your representative or state senator, like I said, voted for this budget, vote them out. The only way Springfield learns is when we send them back home for good and we don't let them continue in office. And you got to support programs like this one. Support me. Be sure to go to patriotpumpenergy.com, buy your bottle of Patriot Pump today. Throw a super chat into the comments section. I'll take your chats here in just a couple of minutes. But here is the bottom line. They told you this tax wouldn't come. They told you that the budget is balanced. They told us that Illinois is getting back on track and we are financially responsible and we are getting back on track economically. Well, they lied. The $140 billion pension debt is still there and growing. They've lied. They've lied and they've ate steak dinners and drank wine on your dime. Believe me, that is what they do. They play around in Springfield. They do baseball games with each other. Like the Republicans and Democrats do a baseball game together. Like, what the hell? You're there for a job and you're getting paid very well to go do this job. Like more than most state legislators in the nation. I think Illinois is at the top of the list, if not the top of the list. I'd have to look, not the top. It's close to the top of what we pay our state legislators salary wise. And they lied. They used your tax dollars to build welcoming centers and DEI offices, and they lied while they buried you in phone bills and fees in the fine print. And now, thanks to them, you're going to be paying 40 cents on the dollar to talk to your mom, nearly 40 cents on the dollar to just talk to your mom or text your kid or FaceTime your grandbaby. And guess what? They're not going to stop. Okay. We're not going to back down here. I hope you don't back down. I hope you expose. I hope we educate you. And I hope that this was an educating segment for you. And we need this country, this state is worth saving. And I provide you solutions every single morning. And I provide you, hey, here's what it says in the Bible. So keep your claws sharp and your faith strong and your phone charged, because we have to fight for liberty. We've got to start calling our legislators. So keep that phone charged and start using your phone to call these legislators. Now, I do want to take a very quick break. at the top of the hour here. And I do want to get to Governor Gavin Newsom because this is hilarious. He's portrayed himself as a moderate in recent, I think it's because he's running for 2028, who knows. But he's tried to go on these podcasts and present himself as a moderate. So he was asked this question about 8-year-olds transitioning and whether he's for it or not and what he thinks about it. And he quite literally, when I say literally, I mean literally danced around the question. Governor Gavin Newsom does this really weird thing. And I've got Twitter clip that you guys are going to get a kick out of. It's just super cuts of him dancing or doing really weird movements when he's approached with a hard-hitting question, the rare occasion where he's approached with a hard-hitting question. So we're going to be chatting a little bit about Governor Gavin Newsom. I do want to get to birthright citizenship as well. I've done segments on this and shows on this before. I've taken the position that, yes, the executive order that Donald Trump has got is a great idea. I'm not disparaging it at all, but I don't think that it's going to be nearly as effective as what Congress could do, where they clarify the 14th Amendment. And we're going to get to that here in just a second. Smash that like button, share this out with your friends. I'm going to just take a quick break. Welcome to Conservative Cat Clips, where we deal with the truth, not talking points. I'm your host, Kat, and today we're putting a spotlight on something the abortion industry wants to keep you in the dark about: abortion pills. What are they? How do they work? And how are they hurting women? Let's talk about the facts. Over 54% of abortions in America are now done using chemical abortion pills. That number is climbing fast. Why? Because it's easier, it's cheaper, and it's quieter. But here's what they won't tell you. Abortion pills come with a serious risk. The process is 2 drugs: mifepristone, which actually ends the pregnancy, and misoprostol, which forces the body to expel the baby. Sounds simple, right? It's not. According to the FDA, 4,200 serious adverse events have been reported, including 28 deaths since 2000, the year 2000. And those are just the official numbers. In 2021, there was a peer-reviewed study that found that ER visits after chemical abortions increased by over 500% between 2002 and 2015. And here's the kicker. Many of these cases are coded as miscarriages, and they're coded as miscarriages because women don't, or they can't, tell the hospital what actually happened and that they actually took these pills. That means the real damage, probably much worse. So way more than 4,200 adverse events since 2000. Now brace yourself. The Biden administration made it to where these pills were accessible by the mail with no person exam, no ultrasound, and no guarantee that the pregnancy had to be an ectopic pregnancy. So, I mean, you could be taking these in your 6 months, 7 months, 8 months along. And it's not, this could be deadly if you take it when it's not an ectopic pregnancy. Women are being told to take these powerful drugs and there's zero medical supervision. That's not healthcare. It's called negligence. It's medical negligence. And we're seeing heartbreaking stories about all these women who are bleeding alone in dorm rooms, bathrooms, parking lots, or even in their own cars in the parking lot. Clinics like Planned Parenthood calls this empowerment and empowering, but tell me how it's empowering to hand a teenager a handful of pills and say, good luck. The emotional fallout is just as real, by the way. There's a physical risk, but there's an emotional risk as well. Women reported feeling abandoned, traumatized, and even haunted by what they've done, especially when they see the tiny, tiny body of their baby passing and passing that. It's traumatizing, and nobody tells them that they're going to see the tiny baby in the pamphlet. So here's the truth, the plain and simple truth. Abortion pills are not safe. They're not kind, and they're not empowering. They actually hurt women,
and they silence their pain by taking these chemical abortion pills, and they protect an industry by keeping the abortion in the dark. And it doesn't do anything to protect the individual at all. I'm Kat, and this has been Conservative Clips, Cat Clips, reminding you that real healthcare, it doesn't kill people. And real healthcare means empowering women and supporting women, not selling them lies in a bottle. Stay alert, stay bold, and always choose light. This has been Conservative Cat Clips.
Hey, welcome back to Conservative Cat. Go ahead and smash that like button. Share this out with your friends. Let me get to some of your comments this morning. Newsom starts talking and hands start dancing. Then his whole body starts. Very strange for an adult male. Yeah, also yesterday, and if you guys missed it, I shared a tweet of Governor Gavin Newsom. It was a picture of him, and he was crossing his legs. And I'm not talking like just crossing his ankles a little bit, like full-blown crossing his legs. And I don't know, very strange also for an adult male. I would say I don't know any adult male who crosses his legs, let alone crosses his legs very flamboyantly and dramatically like that. So Governor Gavin Newsom, a moderate, Google AB5. I'll have to look up AB5. I don't know what that is. I'll check it out. Don't be convinced with Newsom. Oh, no, folks, I'm not thinking that Governor Gavin Newsom is a moderate. I'm saying he's portraying himself as a moderate who stands firmly on both sides. Okay, so he's playing on both sides of an issue here. Specifically, I want to get to this. When he was asked about minors and sex changes. So there's a little problem with playing both sides of the issue, okay, and trying to portray yourself as a moderate if you're Governor Gavin Newsom. There's this little thing. It's a bit problematic. California actually has a law where 8-year-olds can go get sex changes. Okay, so his actions have proved him to be one of the worst governors in America, if not the most progressive governor and the most radical governor in the nation. So his actions have proved him to be one of the most progressive governors in the nation. So I don't need him to confirm or deny his feelings on minors getting medically transitioned and having unnecessary sex changes. Really, I call it genital mutilation of poor children. His actions have proven that he supports it. Okay, so I don't need him to come out and deny or come out in support of the on one side of this issue or the other side. Your actions speak louder than your words, man. And I don't really need. I pulled this today because it's important that we call him out when he dances around questions and he pretends he's all in it on both sides of the dilemma here on the issue. It's important that we call him out when he dances around the question. I don't really need to debate whether or not he's a moderate and to debate his stances on things because his actions have already told me where he lines up on this issue of children, 8-year-olds, getting surgeries. So here he is. He's hesitating here to defend or oppose the sex change surgeries for 8-year-olds. He was on a podcast. Let's take a listen. Here we go.
What about for your values? I mean, is 8 years old too young?
Yeah, I mean, look, I now that I have a 9-year-old, just became 9. Come on, man, I get it. So those are legit. You know, it's interesting. Just the issue of age. I'm as someone that's been so focused on equality broadly, LGBT rights, particularly gay marriage. Mm-hmm. The trans issue for me is also novel. It's over the last few years. I'm trying to understand as much as anyone else. Whole pronoun thing, trying to understand all of that. Well, that was like the hell. I mean, all that stuff. I get it.
What about for your values? I mean, is 8 years old too young?
Yeah, I mean, look, I now that I have a 9-year-old, just became.
Okay, so that's Governor Gavin Newsom. I wanted to share that with you. We are going to get to another clip here, which you guys are going to want to stick around for because he, quite literally was kind of dancing in that interview when he was dancing around that question, and he does this quite a bit. And I found this Supergut on Twitter where there's multiple frames of him dancing, quite literally when he's answering questions. I think it's a nervous tick. Governor J.B. Pritzker is really fascinating when he answers questions. And it kind of depends. If he's like at a podium, he'll keep his hands on the podium. But there's times where I'll see Governor J.B. Pritzker when he's answering questions. He does this with his thumbs, which is really weird, like fascinating. Some of these people have like nervous tics. I would say his nervous tics is like quite literally dancing when he has to dance around a question. So we all know where he stands, and I want to pull the facts out for you. According to NBC, California became the first state to bar school districts from requiring staff to notify parents of their child's gender identification change under the law signed by Governor Gavin Newsom. Sorry, Freudian slip. The same thing here in Illinois. We don't have I don't think we have a law, but the Illinois Education Association, this is the teachers union, same thing. Like, you can't out children to their parents. So they direct staff, and the Illinois Education Association is almost more powerful. I would say they are more powerful than the lawmakers in Springfield. But they directed the school districts to not inform parents of their children's gender identity or their sexual orientation if the child discloses that to a teacher. So according to NBC, California lawmakers won't change state policies allowing transgender kids and teens to play in sports teams consistent with their gender identities. Same thing here in the state of Illinois. IHSA has not come out and condemned this. They're not a government agency, but they haven't taken a position on the issue. Governor J.B. Pritzker hasn't taken a position on the issue. They just continue to allow transgender kids and teens, so men, to participate in girl sport. That's usually how it goes. Young boys to participate with young girls in their sports. So your actions, dude, I mean, I just, like, these are facts. Okay. These are laws, actual laws in California that he has signed. So not only does he believe parents don't have the right to know if their child is interested in socially transitioning their gender, but he also believes that men should play in women's sports, and it's very clear because he signed these laws. You wouldn't have signed laws if you didn't believe in this stuff. And he can claim that he's anything but a radical leftist on these issues, but it would be an outright lie considering his actions. And I want to talk about how he danced around this question, but like quite literally dances around questions. This is a funny little nervous tick that I think he's got. But here he is dancing around the question, and he does it all the time.
Conditions that determine our fate and future. And that fundamental notion of agency, I think, is important more broadly. And I think that goes to some of the issues on the right, conditions that determine our fate and future. And that fundamental notion.
Like, what is this? He goes like this. Every time he starts talking or answering a question, and maybe it's like a nervous tick, and maybe I shouldn't be making fun of him for it, but shame on him. I mean, he's pushing genital mutilation of children in his state, so I don't feel too bad about poking fun at him dancing, literally dancing when he has to dance around questions. So it's unclear if these moves of his, these dance moves of him, is a symptom of a tyrannical leader. I think it's interesting that, and I don't know, I'd have to interview more tyrannical leaders. I've asked questions of Governor J.B. Pritzker, and he does have like that little like thumb thing that I've noticed he does a little bit. Governor Gavin Newsom has like a little tick. So I wonder if it's just across the board tyrannical leaders refusing to tell the truth if they have like nervous tics. But you do the math. I mean, so far, I definitely know that Governor J.B. Pritzker, I don't know if it's a nervous tick or what, but he does do this quite a bit. It's seen it. So Governor Gavin Newsom, there's tape there. This is a little bit harder of a movement to catch on film. Okay, it's very like small, but he does that sometimes. Nonetheless, everyone and their grandmothers know exactly that this man is lying when he, dances around these issues, the transgender, the children transitioning issue. It's deeply unpopular with the American people, the transing of kids, 8-year-old kids. It's an 80-20 issue. If that, I would say that it's 90-10. 8-year-olds transitioning their gender and getting a surgery. Yeah, people aren't in favor of that. So while he thinks that you have the memory of a goldfish and you won't remember the bills that he's signed into law in California, that couldn't be further from the truth. You have a impeccable memory. You are very, very smart. And unlike Governor J.B. Pritzker, he thinks that you aren't smart enough to catch on that. You say you're for working class families, but we've got the highest cell phone tax in the damn country. So yeah, you're not for working families. He thinks that you won't catch on. Maybe he thinks that you don't use a cell phone. I don't know. But you're smart. And this is a guy who's going to try very, very hard to try to swing voters to his side in 2028, Governor Gavin Newsom, by dancing around these questions and presenting himself or portraying himself as a moderate. He's going to have to work harder because we don't have the memory of a goldfish. We know exactly what laws you signed into law there, Governor Gavin Newsom. All right, folks, let's go to the Word of God for a second, because believe it or not, the Word of God talks about transitioning 8-year-olds and whether they should undergo life-altering, medically unnecessary sex changes and sex surgeries. The Bible speaks to, maybe not the issue specifically, but it speaks to it. The basic instructions before leaving Earth. I think it's pretty damn clear that we shouldn't be doing this, and that this is not God's created order. This is rebellion against God's created order. And Governor J.B. Pritzker and Gavin Newsom, they signed laws that explicitly shut parents out of their children's lives. And that is not just bad policy, but it's anti-biblical. We should not be shutting children out of their parents' lives, or shutting parents out of their children's lives. So let's go to Isaiah 5, verse 20, where the prophet thunders, "Woe to those who call evil good and good evil, whose puts darkness for light and light for darkness, who put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter." So that's exactly what we're seeing in California. Leaders are applauding the mutilation of healthy children's bodies while silencing parents, pretending that it's compassion. Friends, it's not compassion, it's confusion. And God is not the author of confusion. That's 1 Corinthians 14:33. God is not the author of confusion, and it says it very plainly in 1 Corinthians. Now let's look at Matthew 18:6, where Jesus gently and lowly gets fierce. "If anyone causes one of these little ones, those who believe in me, to stumble, it would be better for them to have a large millstone hung around their neck and to be drowned in the depths of the sea." So you want to talk about serious consequences. Jesus flipping tables and quite literally called for the people who harm children to be drowned in the depths of the sea here. So, yeah, that's in Matthew 18. So talk about serious consequences. That is the level of accountability, and that's straight from Jesus. That is the level of accountability our Lord reserves for the children and those who lead children astray. So Governor Gavin Newsom and any leader who shrinks from the truth or dances around the question for political clout or for higher polling, you're just playing with fire, really, my guy, because it's not just public backlash, conservative cat show that's going to backlash and call you out publicly, but you're going to have eternal consequences, okay? Because the truth matters and children matter to God, and they are a heritage from God. They are God's, okay? And there are serious consequences to leading children astray. And James 5:12 reminds us, "Let your yes be yes, let your no be no, or you will be condemned." This nation doesn't need another slick politician dodging hard questions. We need leaders who stand firm, speak truth, and protect the most vulnerable. And God looks down. It says, "Let your yes be yes, let your no be no, or you will be condemned." So God calls us to be convicted in our beliefs, have strong convictions in our beliefs, and be strong in our beliefs and not dance around the question. So no matter how much Newsom spins it, God sees all. And I do want to talk about ending birthright citizenship here in the United States. It's unconstitutional. It should have never been a thing. And I'm going to talk about the 14th Amendment here. And we need Congress to pass a law. I am not disparaging Donald Trump's executive order. I just don't think that it's got enough teeth. And I think that if we want forever change, we're going to need Congress to pass a law, and they're going to have to get their heads out of their butts. Okay. Congress has to get their heads out of their butts, and they're going to have to actually do something while they're there. So I'm going to get to that, and then I'll talk about how the Democrat narrative has been blown out of proportion when it comes to the big, beautiful bill, the triple B. They have blown it out of proportion. They would try to convince Americans that they just voted on their death warrant, okay, or like their death sentence. So that's not true. And actually, most Americans have blown this narrative to smithereens because they have come out and polled very much in favor of the big, beautiful bill. So it's like an 80-20 issue. A lot of people love the big, beautiful bill. So we're going to get to that. Smash that like button, subscribe. Let me get to some of your comments before we get into birthright citizenship. I've done multiple shows on the 14th Amendment, so we're going to get to that. But let's get to some of your comments. Angela, she says, an 8-year-old does not know what they want or even really understand what they need, let alone the repercussions will be in their life. Yeah, I mean, an 8-year-old. And what really bothers me about all of this is that an 8-year-old can't even go get a damn Advil from the nurse, okay, without a call home to mom. So none of it really makes sense. You can have a teacher who encourages and leads these children astray, encourages them to go get these gender transitioning surgeries and to mutilate their bodies forever, to go get on puberty blockers, which are not reversible. You can encourage a child to do that, but God forbid we like whip a Tylenol out of our purse and give it to the 8-year-old for a headache. Okay, if you're a teacher. Now, I actually left the teaching profession. I student taught for a couple of years. I really wanted to be a teacher, and I left the field because I didn't like this. So I'll tell you a story. I had some students, and I was student teaching, and this kid, he throws a tissue box at this girl, and I have to, walk him down to the office. And there was another teacher in there, or student teacher, and we were observing, and I was with some really unruly children. Okay. They were a little intense, wild children. So I walked them down to the office. Apparently that wasn't the school district's policy to walk kids down to the office because it's humiliating. This is what they told me. Hey, you can't do that. And then on a separate occasion, this little girl really, really loved me and just wanted to hug me every single time I came into the room. So she just would wrap her arms around me, and, teacher pulls me aside. The teacher who's the classroom I was in, she pulls me aside and she says, you really can't let her do that, and I started to realize, I was like, this is a place where these children are starving for discipline. They are starving for love, and you can't give them what they need as a stranger. And I realized that the entire public school model is just a disservice really to our children. And, it's neglect, really. So I left. I said, yeah, no way. So when these 8-year-olds are questioning and they don't really know what they want, and they've got these hard questions, it's inappropriate for a stranger to talk about sexual orientation or gender identity. It's just flat out inappropriate for a stranger to do that. It's against the law. It's grooming. You're talking about sex with an 8-year-old. Okay. And I mean, there's a degree of which, an adult can talk to a child about sex or about sexual orientation and gender identity. I think that there's a degree of which you could talk to a child about that. Hey, don't let anybody touch your private parts. Okay. That's the extent of what teachers should be telling children, and, keeping it to biology. Hey, this is what your reproductive
body parts do. And this is what sex results in. It results in a child. There's a, medical terms for all of this, and the social aspect of this, and that's what this is. It's a social aspect of sexual orientation, homosexuality, and the nuances of sex. That should be reserved for the parent, because it's inappropriate for a stranger to be talking about this kind of stuff with a child. Much like it's inappropriate for a child to come up and hug me, or it's inappropriate for me to go take the child down to the office, and in public school, that's just the model. That's the way things are nowadays. It never used to be that way. We all kind of had an understanding that, hey, teachers, once you give the kids over to the public school, teachers are the ones who are going to discipline your child and love your child. And we were okay with that years ago. But now there's this, standard of, hey, you're a stranger and you can't touch my kid. I don't want you disciplining my child. I don't want you loving on my child. There's this standard now that teachers should be following. But anyway, I mean, for me, it's just impossible. Like the public education model, it's impossible for a child to actually be raised up in a healthy way and not be neglected. The parents should be loving on their children. The parents should be disciplining their children throughout the day and answering the hard questions about sex and sexual orientation and gender identity. The parents should be doing that. The Bible instructs parents to do that at home, Deuteronomy 6. So I know that's a strong position, but hey, like James 5 said, let your yes be yes, let your no be no. I say no to public education. I think it's terrible for children. So sorry, I went on a tangent there. But Angela, thank you for your comment. I appreciate it. Let's get to the birthright citizenship. So I don't think that there's a way around and any way around this. While I applaud Donald Trump's efforts to end this madness of birthright citizenship for anchor babies and birth tourism, executive orders alone aren't going to cut it. So there's no way around it. I don't think that executive orders are going to cut it. We need a real solution to the abuse that is birthright citizenship, and Congress needs to pass a law. Thankfully, Congress has the constitutional authority to end birthright citizenship for anchor babies. These are children who are born here in the United States to illegal immigrants, birth tourists. So they come, foreign nationals who come here on vacation when they're, 8 months pregnant, and then they're here on vacation, and then they come to the United States solely to secure citizenship for their newborns. And I think that, and I know that Congress has the constitutional authority to end the birthright citizenship through targeted legislation. And I'm going to get to this because targeted legislation is a key word here. They have to do it right. So currently there is a bill introduced in Congress that would do just that. So House Resolution 569. This is the Birthright Citizenship Act of 2025. Now, don't get your hopes up because this isn't the first bill of its kind, okay? So they've tried to do this before, and frankly, Congress has been very unwilling to act, and they've allowed this problem to just get worse and fester and get worse and worse over the decades. And I get that that's a topic for another day, but it's just they are unwilling to touch this issue of birthright citizenship. And I don't know why, because the Constitution is pretty flippin' clear, especially when you look at the supplement documents, which we're going to get to. But I see two big benefits of Congress passing a law. Number one, the law would prevent a future president from coming in, a Democrat likely, and reopening the door for birthright citizenship. So that's the thing about executive orders is another president can come in and with a simple executive order undo the executive order that Donald Trump has had that ends birthright citizenship. Okay, so an executive order can virtually be undone by another executive order, and a law would make it so much harder for activist judges, because Trump's executive order, if it's not already tied up in courts, it will be. I think it is. These activist judges have no problem shutting down an executive order. If it was a law, these judges would have a harder go at it, these activist judges, of shutting it down. There's a lot of activist judges in the lower federal court judges, and
they like to legislate from the bench. And this, if the president and Congress, two branches of government, are in agreement on this law and they pass a law, that goes much further. And it would be harder for these activist judges to shut it down. So birthright citizenship is found in the 14th Amendment, which states, and so I want to read the 14th Amendment to you. And I've talked about this so many other times before, and it's archived, but I'm going to just refresh you on it because this law is new, or like they've introduced a bill. It's new, the House resolution. So I just want to refresh your memories here. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and the state wherein they reside. So it was originally intended to ensure citizenship was conferred to children of freed slaves, the 14th Amendment, okay, as part of the Reconstruction Amendments that followed the Civil War. This is when the 14th Amendment was birthed. It was that 14th Amendment was born because of the children of freed slaves. They wanted to make sure the children of free slaves were actually citizens, okay? However, its application to anchor babies and these birth tourists, so people who come here, have their babies, and they only come here solely to try to get them citizenship, is again ripe for debate on the heels of Donald Trump's second term and his January 20th, 2025 executive order titled Protecting the Meaning and Value of American Citizenship. Okay, so the debate's back. Okay, what does the 14th Amendment really say, and what does it mean? It was originally born because they wanted free slaves, children of free slaves, to be citizens. Okay, that's why the 14th Amendment was born. At the end of the day, it's hard to argue that the 14th Amendment's drafters intended automatic citizenship to children of illegal immigrants and visitors, okay, tourists, okay, of visitors exploiting U.S. soil. It's very hard to imagine that the original drafters of the 14th Amendment wanted that. I don't think that they wanted illegal immigrants to come here, have their babies, and anchor themselves with their babies. At the time of the 14th Amendment's drafting, this was 1866, illegal immigration, not an issue. People who wanted to immigrate to the country did through legal ways. Unlike today's crisis, where we have non-government organizations where they are funded by your tax dollars, and there's unchecked border crossings going on, and organized birth tourism is going on, where there's actually places where you can go have your baby, and it's all organized, and it's organized by these non-government organizations. They didn't have all that stuff back then. Okay, they didn't have that issue. So back when the drafters originally created the 14th Amendment, they didn't know of today's illegal immigrants and the taxpayer, their expected, how these illegal immigrants expect taxpayer-funded education, access to health care, food support, and the list goes on, okay? It's clear that the simple existence of the clause subject to the jurisdiction thereof necessitates that the founders wanted some sort of category of people to be excluded from birthright citizenship, because the 14th Amendment, as it reads, and let me just read it one more time, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. If they didn't want to exclude some people from that birthright citizenship, they would just read all persons born or naturalized in the United States are citizens of the United States. But they added this clause, subject to the jurisdiction thereof. So it's very clear that means the founders wanted to exclude some people from the birthright citizenship, or to put it another way, the existence of the jurisdiction clause proves that birthright citizenship was meant to convey was not meant to convey pretty much everyone, which is what we have now. So that the fact that exists, that clause within the 14th Amendment, proves that birthright citizenship isn't for everyone. Okay, and that there is criteria to meet in order to obtain birthright citizenship. So, passing a law clarifying that clause, subject to the jurisdiction thereof, really means Congress can address the modern challenge, and they didn't have these modern challenges in a manner consistent with the Constitution, and simultaneously prevent any future president from reinstating an unfettered, unchecked birthright citizenship through their own executive order. So passing a law, Congress would be able to address the modern challenge of illegal immigration, the nonprofit organizations, and the birth tourism organization. They'd be able to address all of that, which is a modern challenge. They didn't have that back then. The reason why the 14th Amendment exists is because they wanted the freed slaves' children to be citizens of the United States. And then, a law is stronger. You're not going to have these activist judges. You're also not going to have a president come in and undo Donald Trump's executive order, which he had in January of 2025. So prior to its ratification, the 1868 debates over the 14th Amendment, okay, this is where it gets really interesting, revealed that its drafters, the people who created the 14th Amendment, did not envision blanket citizenship for everybody born on U.S. soil, particularly not for those whose parents owe allegiance to foreign nations or enter unlawfully. So illegal immigrants, and I think it's pretty freaking clear. I don't think we even really need a law. If we had not activist judges, they would rule on this and they would say, okay, yeah, no, this is illegal immigrants and birthright citizenship, anchor babies and birth tourism. This is not constitutional. And the reason why I say that is because you look at the drafters like Senator Lyman Trumbull. So he's actually from Illinois, by the way, fun little fact. He was a key architect of this amendment, and he explained that it cannot be said, quote, it cannot be said of any Indian who owes allegiance, partial allegiance, if you please, to some government that his is the subject to the jurisdiction of the United States. So those are his words. Trumbull words clarify that the subject to the jurisdiction thereof means it was meant to exclude those who have foreign allegiances. Okay, so children of diplomats or of foreign Native American tribes. He talks about the Indians here, foreign Native American tribes. And it makes you wonder, should we assume the foreign citizen of another country who entered the country illegally is loyal to our country or to their own? Especially, I mean, I don't know about you, but a lot of these foreign nationals who are coming into the country illegally, they'll fly like their own flag, like the Mexican flag. They're invading the country, flying their own flag of the countries they come from. I don't know about you, but it doesn't seem like those people have a subject to the jurisdiction thereof the United States. Okay, so I think that provides a pretty clear answer that these illegal immigrants who really give a big old finger to our laws and border jump, they are not subject to the jurisdiction thereof. So the 14th Amendment is pretty clear on this. I'm shocked that we need a law, but perhaps we do in order to clarify some of the modern challenges we're having. Senator Jacob Howard, another one of these drafters. Okay, so it's not just the Trumbull of Illinois. There's another one, the 14th Amendment, appeared to take even a broader approach. Okay, he stated that the jurisdiction clause will not, in my opinion, include persons born in the United States who are foreigners, aliens, or people who belong to families of ambassadors, foreign ministers accredited to the government of the United States, but will include every other human being born within the jurisdiction of the United States. So I'm quoting him here. Will not, I'm going to do it one more time, and then I'm going to kind of wrap up what he said here. Will not, in my opinion, include persons born in the United States who are foreigners, aliens, who belong to families of ambassadors or foreign ministers accredited to the government of the United States, but will include every other human being born within the jurisdiction of the United States. So his view is even broader, and it excludes those with foreign government ties, okay? And he suggests foreign government ties, suggesting a narrower scope than today's expansive interpretation. Okay, so once again, when a citizen of a foreign country first makes contact into our country by breaking the law,
border jumping. This is a misdemeanor, code 1325, 8 U.S. code 1325. When their first contact with the country is breaking our law, I think that it's safe to say that their loyalty is not to the United States, and their loyalty to our country is very questionable. And, his view is broad, where it says, foreign governments, if you have ties to foreign governments. So therefore, if you're a citizen in a foreign land and you come here and your first contact is border jumping, most likely you're not loyal to the United States. And I think that your loyalty is in question. So the Supreme Court has chimed in on this as well. And the left loves this SCOTUS decision. It was in 1898. It was United States versus Wong Kim Ark, and it established jus soli, the right of soil, okay, for children born to, wait for it, drum roll please, legal immigrants. So even the decision that the left loves to point to, this just established that legal immigrants, permanent residents, legal immigrants, their children have birthright citizenship. Okay, that's what that decision is all about. And they point to it, and it's like, why are you pointing to that? That's like literally making the case for my argument that it should be legal permanent residents of the United States, and they have birthright citizenship. Okay, their children have birthright citizenship. And the intention here in the beginning with the 14th Amendment was to get the freed slaves' children to bring them into the fold and to allow them citizenship. Okay, so that's pretty consistent. The SCOTUS decision is consistent with the intention of the 14th Amendment. So yes, that's right. The most prominent SCOTUS case on the issue is silent as to the children of illegal immigrants or birth tourists. Okay, so again, at the time of the 14th Amendment's drafting and later the SCOTUS interpretation, illegal immigration, as we know it today, was virtually non-existent. Okay, so the concept of anchor babies, the concept of birth tourism, would have been a foreign idea to these drafters, okay, at the time. And they couldn't have foreseen what is going on today, this modern challenge that we have, which is the exploitation of U.S. citizenship by those who skirt our immigration laws. They border jump, and then they come here, and then they have their baby, and they try to anchor themselves with their baby. But the drafters, they had the wisdom back then to enter into the amendment, the qualifier, which is subject to the jurisdiction thereof. And they gave us a tool, essentially, to address unforeseen issues. Subject to the jurisdiction thereof. You have to have an allegiance to this country. You can't have an allegiance to this country if you are a citizen of a different country. Okay. You have to become a citizen of this country. And then your children, once you become a citizen of this country, they get automatic citizenship. Okay. Indeed, today, the illegal immigration issue, it strains our national resources to the tune, at least under the Biden administration, our national resources, it strains us by $150 billion per year, the Biden administration. So you're paying that, the taxpayers. Okay, so there is a national strain on our resources. And beyond that, it undermines our sovereignty, allowing mass illegal immigration, allowing things like birth tourism and anchor babies. And it fuels a system where birthright citizenship incentivizes unlawful entry. So this birthright citizenship, I've actually talked to illegal immigrants in Bloomington. They were actually there, and they were panhandling, and they had this little tiny baby with them. Okay, so that baby had been born in the United States when they crossed the border. Okay, so they crossed the border. She was pregnant, and then they had the baby here, and they're hoping that that baby will anchor them. This is a straight up exploitation of our immigration laws, birthright citizenship.
incentivizes unlawful entry into the country. They came here because they believed that they could get citizenship if they had a baby here. Okay, that's what they were told, probably by a nonprofit organization. And it's all birth tourism is very organized. There's even places where you can go give birth. And like, it's just so disgusting. It's so sad. Because, I mean, these people are crossing the borders with human smugglers and people with these big, big guns. They're lucky to be alive, okay? And then they give up their entire life savings to get here. And then they have their baby. And then they find out, oh, it's much harder because it turns out that the 14th Amendment requires me to have subject to the jurisdiction thereof. So I think that it's rational and it's prudent and it's important for Congress to conclude that parents who enter illegally or temporarily for childbirth are not fully to the subject to the jurisdiction of the United States, as their actions demonstrate, I would say, defiance of the American law. Okay, so they are purposefully trying to enter the country and have a child here, and they're purposefully trying to skirt federal immigration law. And I would argue that not only are they not loyal to the country, but they're trying to be openly defiant against the country. So there's no genuine allegiance there. They're just trying to exploit this section within the 14th Amendment. So how would a congressional law look? And how would it work out? Well, Congress, they have this very broad authority, and it's under Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution, and the Constitution grants them this authority. And the courts have historically deferred Congress on immigration policy. Okay, so the statute clarifying, say there's a statute clarifying subject to the jurisdiction thereof. We need to clarify that because these people are too stupid to go look at the primary documentation from Trumbull and from Howard. These are the original drafters of the 14th Amendment, and they seem to, like, pretty clearly, I mean, not outright, but pretty clearly said, like, yeah, it's not made for people who have foreign allegiances and foreign citizenship in other countries. It's made for people who are legal residents of the United States. So a statute clarifying that would requires parents to be lawful residents, okay, or citizens. I think that would align. That's what the law would look like. I think that if they say, hey, parents have to be naturalized citizens, lawful citizens, I think that would align with the amendments the 14th Amendment's original intent to limit citizenship to those who want to be here, okay, and those who have allegiance to the United States and are loyal to the United States. Okay, when you come in here illegally, you border jump, clearly you're being defiant against our laws, but you're also flying this Mexican flag. You are you have an allegiance to a separate country, to a different country. So such a law would not require a constitutional amendment. You don't need to amend the Constitution further. It's already in there. Law would it wouldn't require the constitutional amendment. It would just interpret that line in the 14th Amendment text where it talks about the subject to the jurisdiction thereof. So I'm sure the law, if they were to pass it and Donald Trump were to sign it, they would get to the courts, and it would end up in the courts. And the judiciary, historically, now we're dealing with very, very liberal activist judges at a lower court federal level. Historically, the judiciary has deferred to Congress and the president when it comes to issues of national policy, and matters of national policy and like laws. And like I said, if Congress and the president sign off on this law, it's kind of like 2 against 1. So, yeah, they usually defer to Congress and the president when they act in unison on matters of national policy, especially when supported by compelling interests like securing our borders, protecting national sovereignty, deterring immigration fraud. These are things of compelling interest to the American people, hence why we voted Donald Trump in. Okay, this is of a a national interest. We want to protect our sovereignty. We want to stop immigration fraud. And that's clear by the election of President Donald Trump. So that's not to say that the law is a layup. Any law touching constitutional issues, the 14th Amendment, any law touching that has to meet a very high standard of being constitutional. Okay, so we could pass this law, but it's going to be an uphill battle, okay, because what we're going to have to do, the law interpreting the 14th Amendment and that clause, the subject to their jurisdiction thereof, what Congress is going to be required to do, what they're going to have to do is, one, demonstrate the need to pass the law to satisfy a compelling government interest. So we have to prove that there is a compelling government interest in cracking down on birthright citizenship and birthright tourism. We have to prove that it is harmful to the citizenry. And I think that it is $150 billion a year, okay, wasted of taxpayer dollars on illegal immigrants. So number two, Congress is going to have to get this law to be written as narrowly as possible to address that compelling government interest. Despite this standard being very, very high, like I said, anything that touches a constitutional issue has to have a very high standard, and it has to be constitutional, whatever law they come up with. The facts are on Congress's side here, despite, it being very high in an uphill battle. I think that the facts are on Congress's side. We looked at Trumbull's primary documentation. We looked at what he said. We looked at Howard and what he said, the original drafters of the 14th Amendment. And I think that the facts are on Congress' side, and it has been for decades. The subject to the jurisdiction thereof clause is very clear. Clearly, just adding that means that birthright citizenship isn't for everybody. Okay. Firstly, the crisis of illegal immigration. Like I said, it's estimated to cost billions and billions of dollars annually. That is a strain on public services. It creates a national security theft. So threat. So therefore, I would say that there is a compelling interest, a compelling national interest to address birthright citizenship and to address birth tourism and anchor babies and things like that. Birth tourism is often facilitated by non-government organization, and it undermines the integrity of the United States citizenship laws. Okay, so birth tourism, they set up even like these like facilities for people to go to give birth, which is just wild to me. And these nonprofit organizations will like get them to come here, and they'll get them on a plane as long as they pay like $9,000 or whatever, or $3,000 a head. If you pay that, we'll get you on a plane, we'll get you close to the border, and then we'll have a human trafficker traffic you over, and then they'll drive you up to, and well, once the trafficker gets you over the border, we'll have a nonprofit organization bus for you that at the edge of the border there, and we'll take you via bus to this facility where you can give birth. And then you'll have your anchor baby, and then you'll be able to be a United States citizen because they'll anchor you, that child. And, that's facilitated by nonprofit. That's how it goes. I just walked you through that. That is totally undermining our citizenship, like laws. And the law, secondly, a law excluding children of illegal immigrants and birth tourists from automatic citizenship would be narrowly tailored, preserving birthright citizenship for children of citizens. So I would think that if the Congress were to get this law passed, that it would be legal residents, citizens of the United States. If you're a legal resident and a citizen of the United States, of course, your child is going to have citizenship. And that kind of goes to the sentiment of when it was originally passed. So like when your slaves were freed, they were here and they said, okay, well, the children of these freed slaves are also going to have citizenship. Done this way, if we were to go about it, or Congress passes a law rather than the executive order that Donald Trump already has, done this way, it's likely that, say it gets to the courts, and inevitably it will, and say they, it's got to go all the way up to the Supreme Court. Likely they would view that the political question is best left up to Congress, because historically they've done that. especially when legislation is interpreting rather than contradicting the Constitution. It's not like rewriting the Constitution. We're just simply interpreting that subject to the jurisdiction thereof clause in the 14th Amendment. So SCOTUS could take this issue up directly in the coming session, and my gut tells me that SCOTUS will find Trump's executive order alone to be unconstitutional. Not that I'm anti Donald Trump's executive order, because I do think that that birthright citizenship, automatic birthright citizenship for everybody, is unconstitutional because of that clause in the 14th Amendment. That's my position on it. But SCOTUS, I most likely is probably going to say that the executive order is unconstitutional alone. And they're going to try to, they're going to view this as President Donald Trump being, tyrannical or whatever. And they're going to say that he's trying to change the 14th Amendment and he can't do that, that there would have to be an amendment, or that Congress has to do that, right? So they're going to try to say that he's trying to change the Constitution, and he can't do that through his powers of the presidency. He's not trying to change the Constitution. He's trying to uphold the Constitution and keep the 14th Amendment preserved in its meaning. Anyway, so I'm not saying I agree with what the Supreme Court United States decision would be on the Trump executive order. I think that if they had a brain, these SCOTUS people, they would realize that the 14th Amendment is pretty clear, and this addition of the subject to the jurisdiction thereof clearly means that birthright citizenship isn't automatic for everybody. They added a criteria. So the founders or the drafters of this amendment. So, however, the legislation, if the legislative branch and the executive branch come together, so Congress and the president come together and they unite to pass a law clarifying what that subject to the jurisdiction thereof means, the judicial branch, SCOTUS, and the lower federal courts, I think that they're going to have a hard time overturning that law, and it would be, their power would be very, very limited. So generally speaking, the courts respect legislative and executive branches' authority over immigration and naturalization and national policy when it comes to immigration, particularly when they're unified in their stance. So if the president and Congress are unified, then they're most likely going to side with Congress. Historically, they've deferred to Congress on such matters, and combined with the, I won't even say it's ambiguous. I don't want to say that the amendment is ambiguous, because I think it's pretty freaking clear, especially when you look at the drafters, their supplement documentation of what their intentions were for putting that subject to the jurisdiction thereof in that clause. I don't want to say that it's ambiguous, but being that people don't really know, and there is modern challenges to it, I think that will help with Congress, or with the courts deferring to Congress on the issue. Look, Congress, they should be able to constitutionally, and this would be constitutionally because they're just interpreting the Constitution with the supplement law. I think that they can limit birthright citizenship and exclude anchor babies and exclude birth tourists. Much like Congress, they do it right now. They limit your rights all the time. They limit constitutional rights through supplement laws all the time. For example, just recently, the Big Beautiful Bill, now they zeroed out that tax. It's a $200 tax on silencers and suppressors and short-barreled rifles. Okay, the Constitution, pretty freaking clear, shall not be infringed. Your Second Amendment right to bear arms. And if you want to add pieces of metal to your arms, the government shouldn't have any say in that. But they limit our sacred rights all the time, like our Second Amendment rights, like freedom of speech. They do that stuff all of the time, Congress. Okay, so they should be able to do it here. Much to Trump's administration's credit, I will say that they're throwing everything possible at this issue from a legal standpoint, and that's good. I like that he has the executive order out there. He's trying to bring sanity back to the birthright citizenship issue. So I'm glad that the Trump administration decided to do this executive order. I just don't think that it's going to have enough teeth to get us to the finish line. To sum it up, I wanted to make sure that I did this today because the 14th Amendment drafters, they didn't face today's illegal immigration crisis. Okay, so they never addressed it outright. They didn't face today's birthright citizenship, birth tourism, and all of that. They didn't face that stuff. But by passing a law grounded in the original intent of the amendment, supported by compelling national interest, Congress can restore order to our immigration system and respect our constitutional principles. There is a way to do this, and a move would affirm the rule of law and protect American sovereignty above all else. We need a border. We need a nation with borders. We can't have people coming over here and having babies to try to anchor themselves. That's just a ridiculous premise. I highly doubt the drafters of the 14th Amendment would want that. And we need to ensure people who are here and people who are citizens have allegiance to this country, okay, and are loyal to the country. And we have to stop a potential Republican or Democrat. Remember, our Republican governor, Bruce Rauner, he was the one who did the sanctuary state crap. Okay, so a rhino president, Democrat or a rhino coming in, we have to make sure that they can't just do away with Donald Trump's executive order that addresses birthright citizenship and the abuses. So I think the way to do this and to do it right would be a law that Congress passes. So this means that our 2026 midterms are very, very important because we need all the help we can get in Congress, and we need people in there who are going to actually take this issue to the mat and not just dance around, like Governor Gavin Newsom does, not just dance around the issue. We need to correct this abuse, the birthright citizenship abuse, and we need to do it in my lifetime because it's going to get really, really bad. We're going to have this. We're going to see a country that we don't recognize, and it's just going to be people who have foreign allegiances to various countries, and it's not going to be a sovereign country where we all have loyalty to the United States. And we don't want that. So let's take a look at God's word really quickly, and then I'm going to end today's show. This issue isn't just about policy. It's about order, and God is a God of order. Okay, so Romans 13, 1-2 says thus, let every soul be subject to governing authorities, for there is no authority except from God, and the authorities that exist are appointed by God. So God gave governments the responsibility to protect and preserve our nations, not to surrender our sovereignty through loopholes and lawlessness, okay? When foreign nationals break our laws and receive the reward of citizenship, not through allegiance, not through loyalty, but through manipulation of our laws and through the loopholes of this 14th Amendment, we undermine the very concept of justice, and God doesn't like that. Okay, God is a God of justice as well. So Proverbs 29, verse 4 tells us, by justice, a king gives a country stability. Okay, so we have to have justice in this country and then in our state. We have to have justice, but those who are greedy for bribes tear it down. So nonprofit organizations, they are getting rich off of this. They are tearing down this country because they are getting rich off of the scam, off of the birthright tourism. And, a nation that hands out citizenship like candy or turns a blind eye for the sake of political gain tears itself down from within. Citizenship is not just a piece of paper. It is a covenant. Citizenship is a covenant. It's a pledge of loyalty to a people, to their values, and to the country. That is what citizenship is. It is a pledge of loyalty. And Jesus himself in Matthew 22 said, render yourself to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God's. We are called to respect lawful authority, righteous boundaries, not reward the breaking of them. In the Bible, we're called to respect lawful authority and righteous boundaries. So let's be clear, defending national borders, clarifying laws, protecting citizenship, it's not anti-Christian.
They're biblical. And, you know, this is a covenant. Your citizenship is a covenant. And we should treat it as such. Justice, truth, and order are godly principles. And when Congress fails to uphold those godly principles, justice, truth, order, the people suffer, and we've been suffering to the tune of $150 billion per year, the taxpayer. So let's pray that our leaders have the courage to do what's right and what's not politically easy, because a lot of them for decades have been doing what's politically easy, and they haven't addressed the birthright citizenship issue. Okay. That's going to be it for today. I appreciate you being here. Smash that like button. I'm going to read some of your comments here. The USA has the weakest laws for those who cross the United States. Exactly. For example, Brittany Griner, I bring this up all the time. Brittany Griner, she went to Russia and she brought like a little dope pen or whatever. She was imprisoned and she did not follow the laws of that country. And we had to do a prisoner swap, like for Brittany Griner. Okay. And we had to like work with Russia to try to get her back. So it's very, very tough if you were somebody going into a country like Russia and you just took a crap all over their laws. Okay. And you didn't abide by their laws. It's very rough for you. You know, so like Senator Rand Paul, yeah, I don't know. I'm reading that out of context. I'm sorry. Price varies depending on which cartel individual aids you when you're crossing. 2,500 to 15K. Chinese immigrants paid the most that I witnessed in person. Oh, wow. In California. Oh, wow. Incredible. So there's been a couple of immigrants that I've talked to, and the most I've ever heard is $3,000 a head. So it was him, his children, and his wife, and it was $3,000 a head to get across. And it's not even like in these nonprofit organizations, it's saying like it's lawful human trafficking. And these people are paying the nonprofit organizations, and they have facilities that are paid for by USAID. They have facilities in foreign countries, you know, and then like say in Spain, and they get them on the flights and they have to pay their life savings essentially to go and then pay more money to a human trafficker, like an actual human trafficker or a smuggler, and smuggle them across the country. Yeah, that would not shock me. I mean, I thought it was pretty low. The $3,000, I thought that was pretty low. I was like, oh, dang. I mean, it's still expensive, but 15K, yeah, I'm sure it depends on the cartel, and it probably depends on your nationality as well. Chinese immigrants paid the most. Yeah, so suddenly, oh, Roger, good morning. I appreciate you being here. Look, your pedophile president completely off the radar. Wonders of wonders. I don't know what you're talking about. So President Donald Trump, there's no way he's on the Epstein files. I think what really he's trying to do is he's trying to preserve the global economy, because it would crash if we start arresting bank CEOs and ripping them out of boardrooms. Now, if I was the president, I would release the list. And that's all I'm going to say about that. But I appreciate you being here again, Roger. You guys have a blessed day. Bye-bye. Love you so much. I'll talk to you again tomorrow morning.